So what does that look like? How do we combine the data literacy continuum with what things actually look like in the real world? Well, I have three stages, if you will, of a data citizen. There's a data learner, there's a data user, and there's a data leader. And what we're going to do next is we're going to go through the hallmarks, the competencies, and the skills that each of them demonstrate so that you can use these hallmarks as gauges, as metrics to figure out at what level your folks are at. As you know, you are only as strong as the weakest among you. So you need to be sure that you understand at the most basic level where your team or stakeholders currently are at relative to data and critical thinking. So the data learner knows data. They can describe, they can define concepts, business concepts. Perhaps they can even determine where to go to get the data. Maybe there's a data warehouse tool. Maybe there's a university repository or a data dictionary where they know they can go, they understand the who, the what, the why, the where about the data. The data learner, my hiker here, she's hiking up the mountain. My data learner next, she needs to understand data. A hallmark of a data learner that understands data is that they can summarize, they can interpret, and they can make sense out of the information that they know, right? This is basic summaries. This is just at the very basic level. They can understand something and make sense of something that's been presented to them. So looking at the data learner profile overall, they move within the level 1 context, they move from knowing to understanding. The next step in the data citizen continuum is the data user. The data user at first must know how to manipulate or organize the data. Manipulation is a tough word to use in the context of data. So I recognize, but you'll definitely see it used in Bloom's taxonomy and surely in straight analytical terms, manipulation is a real thing that we do, right? We organize it, we arrange the data, we clean the data. These are things, these are competencies that are retained by a data user. A beginning data user, right? A step 1 data user can do these things. The level, the next step for the data user is that they can analyze data. This is very basic analysis, right? Transforming data. For example, parsing out information in a spreadsheet. They can split out comma-separated lists that are in a cell using, copy and paste special features in Excel and a spreadsheet to make it multivariate data as opposed to a single variable. That's an example of a transformation that a data user can do. Test their thinking, right? Data user can use a spreadsheet, use the tools and functions and features available in a spreadsheet tool by filtering pivot tables to test their thinking. In summary, these are the competencies of a data user. They can manipulate and they can analyze, and that is the continuum that is the data user. And moving ever more up the mountain, the mountain is the data leader. The data leader, the beginning leader, is able to evaluate data, can summarize the data and make sense of what they see and interpret right? And interpret that information. Now understand, this summarizing, the making sense out of something and interpreting it, this is for internal consumption. The data leader who is at the evaluation stage is able to do this for their own purposes, their own learning. Distinguishing them from the data leader that as the advanced data leader can communicate using the data, right? The person, the data citizen who has made it to the data leader stage is able to visualize the data and therefore share it in a way that is concise and poignant, directed at the decisions that need to be made. Now, you don't see here the last step. You don't see here my mountain climber has not made it to the top because she's gotten to the last stage, which is communicate, right? There's no ribbon here waiting at the top, because the fact is that visualizing and deciding is it's a in and of itself is a skill set, but the data is forever changing. The decisions that we have to make are forever changing. The stakeholders are forever changing, and what's at stake is forever changing. And so therefore, this is continuous learning, right? Which is one of the things that makes the aspiration to becoming a leader. It's not anticlimactic, right? The step or the continuum, the progression from learner to user to leader opens the door to the next step, which is the vast world of visualizations and decisions and in a dynamic world that are forever changing. So after all of that, we'd like to wake everybody up and use a poll. This time, we'd like to know, where is your team at? Where on the data literacy continuum would you characterize the majority of your data teammates or your stakeholders? Folks pretty much said data users. We got a nice bell curve here. Oh my goodness. The nice distribution with the data users right in the middle.